All right, welcome everyone. Great to have all of you joining us today. We're going to hang out for just a minute to make sure that everyone can join and get settled in. We have some great guests today, so be sure to grab a drink and a snack so you don't miss a thing. So normally I talk about the weather here and ask the panelists how the weather is where they are, but all three of us are in Bozeman and it's freezing and snowy, so that's that. So Eli, how about you tell us about some New Year's resolutions?
Oh, wow, Amy. I try to be very minimal whenever I'm doing New Year's resolutions. So this year I've just decided to learn to play guitar.
I love that.
So I have a couple jam sessions throughout the week and we'll see how long it sticks.
Perfect. Well, next webinar we do, the beginning can be you playing for us.
Oh, I would do an introduction, yes.
There you go. There
Chris,
you
how about
go.
you?
Oh man, I think this year my resolution was to learn a new skill or talent. So kind of on there with Eli, but my fiance and I, like the skill we may want to try and learn is ASL. She's a teacher, so elementary school teacher. So obviously has some students who know sign language. So that's something we've been looking at. So that'd
Perfect.
be a task, but I think it'd be fun, exciting, new skill, something I think you could just kind of use everywhere and anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Our 15-month-old knows like 4 signs, more and all done and milk. So I can teach you 4 if you'd like. All
Uh,
right, perfect. Well, we are just past that hour, so I'm officially going to get us started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Aimee Arnaud, and I am the Director of Sales on the XYPN Business Development team. Today, I'm thrilled to host this event, 30 Sales Tips for RIA Owners in 30-ish minutes, with my XYPN teammates Eli Rickert and Chris Johnson. I have just a few housekeeping items to go over. If you have any questions for us to address throughout the session, please be sure to submit them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of Zoom, as that will be easier for me to monitor than the chat. We do have some questions that were submitted beforehand, so we'll be answering a mix of both those and questions asked live throughout our conversation. Also, when the webinar is over, you will be able to fill out a survey through Zoom, and we would love to hear how we did. We would also love for ideas on topics that you would like to hear about in the future. So be sure to take a minute to fill that out. We host a free webinar every month. So next month, be sure to join us for Podcasting 101 for RIA owners, why and how you can leverage this powerful tool. And that will feature XYPN members Justin Green and Colton Etherton. This should be a fun one, so be sure to sign up in the chat. Last thing, this month we are kicking off our new virtual program, the Solutions Spotlight. This program features partners of XYPN or solutions that we love, and we have e-money in your stake lined up in the next couple of weeks. So be sure to register for those as well, and believe it or not, the chat. All right, enough of the boring stuff. Let's get to the reason you all are here. Chris, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, again, thanks for everyone jumping on today. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the senior manager of business development here at XYPN. I've been with the company for about 4 years now, along with Amy. So it's been a journey. It's been a ride.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Eli, how about you?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Eli Rickert, Business Development Manager as well. And I've been with the company for just about 3 years, so a little shy of both Amy and Chris, but have helped quite a few advisors join the network. So very excited to talk about sales today.
Me too. All right, thank you both. Well, I am actually going to kick us off with my tips. So just a little bit about me. I started my sales career just a decade ago with Northwest Farm Credit Services, now known as Ag West. And so there, I was a relationship manager, managed a portfolio of business that of increasing size and complexity, really traditional sales. So local and regional customers, lots of chamber and networking events. Really not virtual at all. I got burnt out on the hours of being a banker, and so came to XYPN in April of 2020, which was a wild time to start a new job, and also a very different experience. Obviously, we are completely virtual in our sales process. So did a couple of years as a business development specialist, then hopped around marketing a bit, and then just recently came back as the director of sales. Okay, now time for my tips. So my first one is to refine and define your niche. So if you've followed XYPN at all, you know that this is the drum that Michael and Alan beat hard, but they do that for a reason. And it's really something that I personally believe in and has made my career much easier. When I started at Egg West, I really didn't have a focus. I mean, they can only serve farmers, so I had that. But serving farmers in Montana does not narrow things down much at all. So I decided to focus on a division of that called Egg Vision, which is young, beginning, and small producers. And that made my life so much easier. It was easier to map out where I could find my customers, what their pain points were, how I could help them, how to underwrite loans so that the loan committee would approve them, just really all around helped me refine my process and made a big difference in their lives. Also, the more business I could do for them, then they all knew other young, beginning, and small farmers. So they referred a lot of business to me. So my portfolio grew faster with higher quality clients that I love to work with. So huge plug for the niche there. Also at XYPN, that's what we do. So we work with fee-only financial advisors that are looking to start, run, or grow their firm. So it really helps us hone in on how to do our sales process well and how to build products that fit those advisors perfectly. So we get a lot of questions about how do I decide on my niche and how do I refine it? So my advice, if you're thinking about something that fits naturally, that's going to be great. So I got into egg lending because I grew up on a farm and ranch. So that was an easy transition for me. If you don't have something perfectly, just think about the clients that you really want to work with and then drill down on it. So your ideal client should be able to refer other ideal clients to you. So if I'm your client and you tell me, Aimee, I want you to send all the women that you know to me, I'm like, well, that's hundreds of women that I know. I'm not going to do that. You say, can you send me women in tech? Again, probably too many for me to know who's exactly right for you. If you say women in tech that have young children, boom, I know 5 people that are going to be great to work with you. So that's how you can start to drill down into a niche that's going to be able to find you other people that are the right client for you. Okay, my next one is to get to know your niche. So if it's not something that's inherent to you, like my experience in egg, then you really need to be able to speak the language of your niche. So if you're like me, approaching 40 and you want to work with TikTok influencers, I don't even have TikTok. So I'm going to have to do a lot of work, right? To figure out like what's important to them. What are the words that they're using, right? So you need to be doing a lot of research into that niche so you can easily recognize their pain points. So the first place I would start is just to follow some of those folks on social media. So if your niche is tattoo artists, find a tattoo artist or a few to follow, watch their stories, look at their posts, like see what they're talking about so that you start to organically understand their language. Also do lots of interviews. I would suggest like a minimum of 10 sit downs that are an hour long, just asking about their lives, what's really important to them, how their lives evolve, so that you'll be able to have that conversation well with your prospects and know how to serve them. I think that as you get to know some of the general points about that, then you'll really be able to shape your sales process around that. My next one is to develop the structure of your initial conversation and to make that valuable to your niche and not to you. I think sometimes we get hung up on what we're good at or proud of, and we want to lead the conversation with that versus what is important to the niche. So if you're great at investment management and estate planning and your niche is 20-year-olds, they don't care about either of those things. They don't have assets and they're not thinking about estate planning right now. So you need to understand exactly what's important to your prospects and make sure that you include that in your discovery call. Ultimately, you want the prospects to be doing most of the talking in your discovery conversation, but you do want to have some highlights of things that you want to be sure to hit on your end that you know are going to be valuable for that prospect. So my suggestion, don't have a script. We don't want that, but certainly have an outline of those highlights so that you keep front of mind, like, okay, I got to hit these. Because ultimately what you want is to have them walk away thinking of like, yes, this person knows me and they know exactly how they can help you. Okay, so next we have be honest with yourself about your insecurities and weaknesses and to practice. So we all have an area of the sales process that makes us nervous. So that's okay. It's what's important is to identify what that is and to make peace with it and then to work on it because it certainly can be fixed. So you might be someone that is like, I hate small talk. I don't want to do small talk. I'm not going to do small talk. Sorry, that's not going to work in sales. So you need to sit down and practice that. Like get some friends and family that you can work on that. Yeah, it's going to be silly. You're going to laugh a lot, but it'll help get some of those jitters out. I think a really common one is to be nervous asking for the sale. So, or asking to close the deal. So practice that conversation with your friends and family. The more that you can do it, the more that it's going to feel, or it's going to feel less uncomfortable and more natural to you. Their goal here is not to sound rehearsed, but rather to sound confident and comfortable and warm. And really the best way to sound confident and comfortable and warm is to actually be that. So the more that you practice and get these jitters out, the better your executive presence is going to come through with your clients. So really work on that, especially if you're new to sales or you're coming from a role where maybe you just did financial planning and didn't do the client meetings. Like work on some of this stuff before you actually get in front of your prospects. My next one is to set your intent each time you engage. So this is really important, especially if you're starting out from scratch. It's easy to feel pressure and anxiety of like, I have got to close this deal. My daughter needs braces. I'm not making enough money. Like you just come in thinking like, I need to close this or everything's over. And that's not why you're there. You are not there to close the deal. You are there to discover if you are the right fit for this prospect and if you can bring value to their life and truly help them. So every time you come into a conversation, remind yourself of that. Conversely, you only want to work with prospects that are the right fit for you. So if you're really nervous about closing that deal and they start to say, well, your fee is like a little too expensive and I actually want to be able to call you every day, and these are not things that fit with your business. If you're focused on the deal, you're going to start to say yes to things that you actually don't want to say yes to. So really you're discovering, are you both the right fit for your business? And that energy is really going to shine through in your conversations and put your prospect at ease. Next slide, Eli. Okay, listen for pain points that have deadlines. I love this one because it can really help with organic follow-up. So if you're having a conversation with a prospect, you really want to be focusing on things that they're putting out into the future. So let's say you're meeting with a couple and they tell you, we're really thinking about adding to our family. We're looking at trying to have a baby next year in 12 months. Well, let's say they're going to say exactly 12 months. Now that helps you work backwards on when they need to sign up with you. So let's say that normally, it takes your clients 6 months to get through the initial planning phase. Okay, we're going to go 12 minus 6. So 6 months from there, your onboarding process is 3 months, back up another 3 months. That means that from today, they need to be signing with you in 3 months. So that really can help shape your follow-up from the time of your discovery call to when you want them to sign up. It also helps you frame some of that follow-up where it's not just like, hey, you're ready to sign up with me. It's like, hi, I found this article that I found really helpful on being a first-time parent or what that means for your finances. So you can start sharing some resources so you stay top of mind for them, but it's not specifically asking them for something. It's just letting them know that you're thinking about them. It also then, when that 3-month mark is ticking closer, you can say, hey, if your goal is to have your finances ready 9 months from now, that means that we need to be moving forward today so that I can start getting you through and helping you with your life. So it just is a nice way to have more ways to follow up that are authentic. Okay. Board, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. This is an old traditional sales piece, but I think it's really helpful. These are the things people love to talk about themselves, and these are the things that people want to talk about. So be listening for them because it really helps you build a rapport with your prospect. So in your CRM, you should be taking diligent notes about everything, but pay special attention to these. Also, if you have an opportunity to ask for the date of something, get that. So if someone says to you, my daughter's graduating from high school at the end of this year, ask them, okay, what day is that? And then write that down, put a note in your calendar. June 15th, you're going to send a handwritten note or a gift or something to that family to congratulate them on their daughter graduating from high school. So just little touches like that are another way to stay close to your prospects that feel more personal than an email and are more personal than an email. And also be sure in any conversation that you're having with the prospect to make room for them to talk about their lives and ask them about these things that you've focused on forward. Try to touch on it in every conversation that you have, because, and also feel free to share a little bit about yourself too, because you're a person, they're a person, you want to connect as people more than just in a business transaction. One caveat to this, not everyone loves this. So if you try this with someone and they're just like lead-faced, like do not want to talk about my family, that's okay. Just make a note in your CRM, do not like small talk. And then you know for next time you tried. All right, be responsive in a meaningful way. This comes back to the niche that you want to be responsive to to your prospects, but not everyone is going to want the same kind of responsiveness. It's really going to depend on your clients. So if your niche is baby boomers, you're going to have to pick up the phone and call them. If your niche is millennials, do not ever call them, just email. If your niche is social media influencers, you're going to be answering some DMs. So just make sure that you're meeting them where they're at in their communication. If you don't know, it's okay to ask. Just say, hey, what's your preferred method of communication? And that way you know that you're trying your best to get a hold of them. Let's see. Tell your prospects how to shop for your services. So it's a jungle out there. And as consumers are searching for business, keep in mind that most consumers don't know a lot about financial advisors. So you should help equip them to find someone that's right for them, even if it's not you. So as you're having a conversation with someone, say, hey, it seems like maybe you're shopping around for a financial advisor. If I were you, these are the 5 things that I would look for, and these are the 5 questions that I would ask. This is going to make sure that they're not going to get bamboozled by something shiny that's like not actually valuable to them, and that they're going to end up with a fiduciary that truly has their best interest at heart, which again comes back to what we really want for our clients. So this also helps even the playing field, because if you tell them those 10 things and then you give those to go out into the world, they're going to be comparing more apples to apples versus apples to oranges with like an advisor that has a totally different set of stuff that seems better but is actually not. So, and also really creates goodwill. If they feel like, wow, they really went to bat for me, like helping me understand how to find the right financial advisor, I don't even need to look anymore. Like it can really help with that too. All right, my last one, to develop a way to obtain feedback from closed loss prospects. You're going to lose a ton of deals, either because they're not the right fit for you or you aren't the right fit for them. Honestly, if you're not, then you're doing something wrong. Like you should be losing deals. But anytime you do, find a way to get feedback for why that happened, especially if it seemed like the prospect might be a good fit for you. So I think an anonymous survey is great. Just ask a couple of questions. It's to take less than 2 minutes, just so you can find out kind of what went into their thought process. Maybe they're just not ready to move forward. Maybe your fees are too high for them. Whatever it is, you do want to know that. Hopefully they'll tell you no. They probably won't. They're probably going to ghost you, but you should still send it anyway. So hopefully they'll respond. And just remember with this that never take anything personally. You're just using this information to make decisions from and improve yourself, because it's really valuable. So if you have a really specific niche and all the feedback comes back that your fees are too high, that's going to help you reevaluate. Maybe you want to lower your fees, or maybe you want to change your niche. If your fees have to be at that level, maybe you're working with the wrong people. So it's just all data to help you make decisions. So that is my last tip. I think, Chris, you're up next.
Yes, awesome work, Aimee. And just quick background again on myself. Been with XYPN for about 4 years now, and I've had the opportunity to talk with hundreds of advisors with various backgrounds, folks who are in different career stages, and then people who are trying to do so many different things and launching their RIAs. So we've been outbound sales, inbound sales, webinars, office hours. So I have had some really good experience with kind of all corners of the sales spectrum. So that's a little bit about my background. And then I'm looking forward to just kind of jumping in and sharing some of my tips with you folks, and do just kind of want to set the stage and let you guys know, and maybe you guys have heard this before, but selling, it is a part of everyday life, and completely understand that it may not be your folks' favorite aspect of being in the industry, but just be cognizant that almost every single industry sells something, right? We're trying to move folks from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. And, just some examples that come to mind right now of folks selling in other industries. Teachers are selling their students on the value of paying attention in class, or doctors and physicians selling their patients on physical therapy or remedies, medication, and then you even delivering presentations in front of coworkers is selling yourself. So I know sales can kind of have a negative connotation at times, but do just remember that everybody does sell some capacity, some way, shape, or form. Now, just to dive into some of the tips, I put together for y'all today, do just want to start out with, try to allow your prospect or your lead to become a part of the conversation, right? We want the sales process or business development process to be collaborative as possible, right? So helping your buyer solve a problem, right? We want to identify the problem and then help come up with a solution to get them to where they want to be. Right. We don't want to sell at people. We want to try to create that synergy to really make them feel a part of the conversation. And some tool, that I, kind of remind myself of every single day that, Aimee and I learned 4 years ago through a sales course from Nancy Blakey. It's called With It, WIIFT. So what's in it for them? Right? Figuring out what's in it for your prospect. Aimee kind of hit on that a little bit earlier, but really just making it easy for your buyer to engage with you and then connecting that value to your solution for them. Moving into my next bullet point, we don't want to lead the conversation, folks, with a capabilities pitch, right? We want to lead with value and the value you'll be providing them. So making sure that you are giving your prospects confidence that you will add real value to their lives while also helping them realize that you'll help them minimize risk. So really making sure, we're not coming in too hot and heavy, saying, I'll do this, that, the other for you. Here's how I help you. And I'll touch on this a little bit more in one of my later bullet points. But moving into my third bullet point, another one that Aimee touched on just briefly, but trying to meet your leads and your prospects where they're at. And I'm going to come at this from a little bit of a different angle. What I mean by this is trying to gain an understanding and a better perspective of really where the prospect is in their life even, right? So trying to see the world through their eyes, through their lens. And one thing that's been helpful for me is assuming that I'm in a lower position of power, even though I'm the subject matter expert, right? I have many of the answers to your questions. I have obviously the better understanding of the services I'll be providing, right? But it's helped me put myself in a lower position of power, and it's kind of created that human element for clients and for prospects. We don't want to come across as kind of the pushy or snooty know-it-all with my services, even though you are the subject matter expert. And then just showing some empathy, moving into my next bullet point, we want to be able to show empathy. And I think this is a really critical part of the business development and sales process. Just trying to get a genuine understanding of your client's issues, getting an understanding for their goals, and then even help understanding and breaking down some of their fears or trepidations, right? That's going to create that human element in the process. So we do want to be intentional, and we want to be purposeful even with every single interaction that we're having with our prospects, right? Whether that's through email follow-up, your initial phone meeting or initial Zoom meeting, right? We want to make sure that we're always being purposeful. And I mean, I'm sure many of you guys have heard this before, but you never know the kind of impression you're going to leave on this person. And we just got to remember that we may be jumping on a meeting with someone who may be a little disgruntled that day, but they could have been having a tough week, right? We're all human. We all go through different phases of life, trials, circumstances for everybody are different. So do just remember that, they aren't just a sale or a deal, right? These are human beings that we're connecting with and that we're working with. And one thing I truly believe is that our aim should be to educate your prospect and client, right? Not come in hard with that initial sales pitch, as I mentioned earlier. One of the most beneficial things that everybody on this meeting can do is listen first, right? Being a great listener is one of the more powerful things you can do being in sales, right? By listening, we're going to be able to understand their pain points, and then we can tailor the conversation to what's important to them, right? Again, just not coming in hot and heavy, but maybe leaving some aspects of your services out of the initial conversation because it doesn't quite pertain to them and doesn't pertain to what they're looking for out of the services you need. And that's something I had to learn early on here at XYPN. I had to come to realize I didn't need to get into the weeds of, we started, 10 years ago, or these are our co-founders, and just all these other little details that really weren't pertinent to the conversation. And I kind of had to find out the hard way that people really didn't care about that. So if they want to ask those kind of questions, let them, but make sure you're getting to the heart of their problem, and then understanding how you can help get them to a solution. And then we can jump to the next slide, please, Eli. Oh, maybe it's me. Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry about that. But this is something that I'm sure we've all had to deal with at one point in time, but objections, right? We've all faced objections. We're all going to continue to face objections when we're speaking with prospects and leads, but try to come prepared with responses to maybe some of the more common objections that you may be hearing, right? You guys may hear, I'm already using an advisor. What separates you from this person? Or I'm not quite sure if I need an advisor at this point in time, or I just can't afford your fees right now. And so something that's helped me when folks do come with objections is just letting them know that their concerns are important and they are valid, right? That's going to help them kind of break those barriers down a little bit more by confirming that, hey, I get your hesitation here. Let's try and work through some of these issues together. So that's been a helpful way for me to work through objections, is by actually getting ahead of them and coming prepared to these meetings with responses. Obviously not scripts, but just some bullet points here and there that I kind of keep in my back pocket. In these next bullet points, they're a little bit more tactical, I suppose, but this has to kind of do with the follow-up process, this next bullet point, but making sure that you're following up with relevant content and resources, right? We don't want to information overload them in that initial follow-up email after you've had that intro meeting with them. This is something I had to learn, baptism by fire back then. I would send emails, and the emails would just be littered in blue, just links down, and we could see if people are clicking or opening them, and folks weren't. So that was something I had to learn the hard way. But when you are following up with people, right, maybe slip in a small nugget of info from your previous meeting that you had for them based on those meeting notes you took. Maybe include a quick blog link or a newsletter or some type of video that may help them address an issue, or maybe a question that may be lingering of theirs. And then creating a life cycle stage, or creating life cycle stages for, excuse me, your sales pipeline. And this is really going to help you define where your prospects are in the sales cycle prior to them converting to your clients, right? In turn, this can help you plan out capacity 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road for yourselves. That's going to help you be able to plan to hire potentially if you got a lot of folks in that pipeline. Having and creating these sales life cycle stages also just kind of give you a sense of when people will be converting, right? And it's going to help with your follow-up cadence even. If you have a life cycle stage, let's say they're within a few weeks of committing, to your services. you obviously know you could temper your follow-ups there. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you have someone who's 6 months out from committing, right, you may want to check in maybe once a month or once every 2 months with some relevant information or follow-up information. And so the sales life cycle stages I know are a critical component of what we do here at XYPN, and also going to allow you to know how much time you may need to spend on certain people too. And my second to last bullet point that I have, it has to do with empathy, folks. Or no, where am I at here? Yeah, so again, this is going to be just staying close to your pipeline people, right? And what I mean by that is going through a pipeline scrub. So on a monthly basis, we do go through a pipeline scrub here at XYPN and just reviewing, some of our meeting notes, taking a peek if folks have clicked or opened an email of ours recently. And by reviewing a lot of this information, again, this is going to allow you to tailor your follow-ups accordingly, right? Or what type of information they're interacting with that you've sent them, right? Maybe you could send them another blog post that's pertinent to some of the material they've been checking out through the resources that you're sharing them. So staying close and staying on top of your pipeline has been something that's been really beneficial for me professionally. And then last but not least is just being open, honest, and transparent, folks. I mean, in this day and age with the internet, right, the people that you're meeting with, they can also come to your meeting with as much info on your services as you have. So your ADVs are public information, you have a website, right? So be transparent with the type of services you're providing, right? Integrity for me is something I just hold in the highest regard. And I know sales traditionally doesn't have that kind of connotation of being honest and transparent. But at the end of the day, that's something that has been extremely important for me, working in these folks' best interests, right? Everybody on this call here is a fiduciary. So we want to make sure that, we're always working in our clients' best interests, and just being a good person, folks, I think is something that just helps folks see the humanness in the sales process, right? Just having that honesty, being open, and being transparent. And that's the last little nugget. I'll leave with you folks and I'll kick it over to Eli.
Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh, Chris and Aimee, amazing tips. It's kind of hard to go at the end, but here we are. Hello. So as I said earlier, I've been with XYPN for almost 3 years now, helping advisors, kind of being a counselor on the phone as well. But before joining XYPN, I was in the auto industry, slinging cars, selling cars, not virtually at all, in front of people, making the small talk, doing all of the things. So when we made the decision to make this webinar, I just thought Chris and Aimee are going to have us covered with all of the things that we really need to know. So instead of being redundant and just saying all of that again, I really wanted to be intentional with how to stay positive, right? We're in sales and it's not all sunshine and rainbows all of the time. I really wish it was. If it was, everyone would be doing it. So my tips are more on how to stay focused, motivated, positive, so you can continue doing what you enjoy doing when it's not a great day, because that will happen. So my first tip is care about what you do, because it truly shines through. People want to work with people they know, like, and trust. So when you are speaking with prospects, they're going to feel the excitement that you have, and they're going to want to get on board. So just be yourself and have fun doing what you enjoy doing. The second tip I have learned by just going with the flow, and don't get bitter, get better. So as you can see, a lot of these tips are like little sayings, because it just really helps me to remind myself. So don't get bitter, get better. So keep a close eye on those prospects that you didn't convert and those that you did. And I think it's more important to focus on the prospects that you thought were a good fit for your firm and figure out why they didn't decide to work with you. That way, in the future, you can really take that information and put it to use and get better. So kind of like Aimee said, you can send a form out, you can call them if they're a boomer, you can email them, text them, send a carrier pigeon, whatever the case may be, whatever fits with what you've got going on. If you don't ask, you don't know. Marry the process and divorce the outcome. Sometimes when we have a prospect and we're looking at the deal instead of the human in front of us, we can get so excited and kind of go a couple steps ahead when we really need to slow the process down, do our due diligence, and go through the steps to make sure that this is going to be the right fit for you and for them. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. This is also another way to say, don't make it personal, because in sales, it can be very personal. And then going right into slowing the process down. I'm the type of person that can go a million miles a minute, but slowing the process down, you're really getting to know your client. You're really getting to know what they need. Are they going to be a good fit? And then you can also make friends throughout this process, because that's really what sales is connections. And ask open-ended questions. This is really going to help move the process, move the conversation along. So you might have someone who doesn't like small talk, but you still need to talk to them and you still need to know what they need from you. So asking open-ended questions are really going to help you move that process along. And the fortune is in the follow-up. Again, make cute little sayings so you really remember it. So whether your client is ready to move forward or not, just being on the front of their mind is going to be so important, whether it's going to be 12 months down the road of them wanting to work with you, or they're not a good fit for you, but they really liked you and they have friends that are going to fit within your firm. So it's just really important to make sure that you're making those relationships and you're not just looking at the deal, so to speak. Another little saying is sit. So share, invite, and teach. So you want to just share your services, let them know exactly what you do and how you would be able to help them, and then invite them into the conversation, figuring out what they need, does it align, and just pulling more information out as you're collaborating with your client. And then empower them to make the decision, because at the end of the day, it's 2024. Nobody wants to be sold anything. People do want to feel empowered and confident that they're making the right decision and the decision is working with you. So teach them that they can do that. And know who you want to work with, AKA know that niche. I think all of us have said it throughout this webinar today. You really want to know who you want to work with, because everyone on this call, everyone that has a firm, they've done the scary thing, right? You've made the transition, you've broken away, you've launched your own firm because you want to work with people you want to work with and you want to charge what you want to charge. So knowing who you want to work with before is going to really make sure that you're getting in front of the right people, that you're marketing to the right people, and you're not wasting your time or that prospective client's time. If they're into underwater basketball weavers and you're working with teachers. So and set goals and know where you're going at all times. It's so easy to get wrapped up into what's right in front of you, but we need to really focus on where do we want to be at the end of the month? Where do we want to be at the end of the year? And set small goals so you can achieve them and stay motivated and inspired to keep going. And then here are just a couple little tools from my arsenal. I love Masterclass. So if you're looking for some personal development, highly recommend Masterclass. The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, and then his book, Never Split the Difference. This is a great way to help pull information out of the other side so you can have a collaborative conversation, especially if you don't like small talk. I think this is going to be a great way to practice, to understand how to connect with others. And Jeffrey Gittermo has a really super quick, easy book called The Little Red Book of Sales. And it's just helpful to slow the process down. I think when we look at sales, sometimes it's super scary, but this book is going to teach you that as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you have your goals in place, know who you want to work with, know exactly what you're doing, and you're passionate about what you're doing, it's not that scary. And then To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. It's a great book. It really breaks down the process and shows that we're all humans. We're all doing the best we can. And really everyone is in sales, and sales is trying to move folks forward. So it just helps break down, and again, helps with small talk as well. And those are my tips. Little super quick, super fast, but there they are. So if anyone has any questions, Chris, Aimee, and I would love to answer those.
Yeah, thank you. We don't have any open right now, so I'm going to start with some that were pre-submitted by folks. So first one we got, how do we take the ideas you share and not sound like everyone else? Chris, you have a thought to start us?
How do you take the ideas we shared and not sound like everyone else? I mean, just staying true to your heart, folks, and being transparent again and honest. Like, you don't have to be a completely different person. I mean, meeting people where they're at based on obviously their body language, even if it's a Zoom meeting, kind of if they're smiling, if they're frowning, but just making a lot of these tips personal to you, right? We gave you some good guidelines to follow. Obviously, these aren't a strict set of rules, folks. And that's what I've found with sales over the last few years. Do what works best for you. I think we've helped lay some good groundwork, but at the end of the day, you want to feel comfortable as possible in your sales process.
Eli, what do you think?
Definitely echoing what Chris says, and being 120% true to yourself and speaking from your tone, because I feel like all of the sales tips out there, they're kind of all the same. But if you can just be true to yourself and speak from your heart, from the passion that you have about what you do, that's really going to attract the folks that you want to work with.
Being authentic. Yeah,
Yeah.
people love authenticity.
I agree. I think also paying attention to unique things about your prospect and making sure you keep note of that and trying to include those little tidbits in your follow-up. So it's totally fine to have a template for like my third touch says this, like that's okay. You can do that. I would recommend writing all of those resources yourself. Don't use AI to write them because then you are going to sound like everyone else. So write it yourself and then just take a pass over that template before you send it and add something in about them that you know, if they have a dog, you're like, how's Rufus doing these days? I don't know, like something specific that you know is pertinent to them. That's really going to make it feel much more close to home than just a general follow-up. Okay, got a quick question from Phil. What are some of the most frequent objections you hear? At what sales stage do you hear them? And how do you suggest responding? Okay, I'm going to read that one more time. What are some of the most frequent objections you hear? At what sales stage do you hear them? And how do you suggest responding? Eli, do you want to kick us off on this one?
I do, yeah. So I would say the objection I hear most in the XYPN sales process is really where to start. So yes, Chris and I are in sales, but it's really more about educating our prospects. So really helping them slow their process down, because if they're coming to you with objections right at the beginning, it's probably most likely because they don't have all of the information. So if you can take a step away from what you're selling or what you're trying to do and really meet that client where they're at and help educate them, help prep them. I know we always send like first year budget, business plan, like let's figure out where you're at first and let's figure out where you want to go. And then continue the sales conversation, but really meeting the customer where they're at. And Aimee, what was the second or third part of that question?
How do you suggest responding?
Do not panic. Just meet them where they're at.
For me, most common objection is typically has to do with pricing, just like the cost of your service or your product. And so again, just confirming that, their concern is valid. And but then trying to dig to the root of, why do you feel, what about our offering, feels expensive to you? What member benefit may be too expensive for your blood. And then sometimes, I'll ask, do you mind me asking for permission, folks, is also, I think, a really important piece, so I'll ask, a prospect. So, do you mind if I ask how much you're currently paying for X, Y, and Z, right? And then we'll go into a breakdown of costs. We'll send them some budgets. We also have some calculators to show them some return on investment as well. But really confirming their objection and then asking for permission if you can dig a little bit deeper into why they have that objection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to speak as like a former financial advising prospect myself. That, when I first started thinking about getting financial advice, some of the first initial objections I came in with were, this is too expensive and I don't have time to do this. So helping customers understand where their money is going to go and the value that they're going to bring, and also really nailing down how much time is actually going to be involved as they're going through the financial advising process and ongoing. If they're going to be a retainer client with you, like what does it actually mean for them? What's the lift on their end? And also, what amount of time are you going to save them? So what things do you do for them that will actually cut back on the lift that they have to make? And I think a lot of objections come for prospects when they're in that kind of like right past the tire kicking stage where they know just enough to be dangerous and think that they don't need you, but not enough to understand why they need you and ultimately what you can do for them and why they should move forward. So that's where you got to nail that down, nail your value down so that you can communicate that effectively and meaningfully when they don't know quite enough and are just on their way to learning enough, is that sort of middle stage. So having a really great value proposition is going to help with that. Okay. How do I follow up without being pushy? Let's see, Chris, what do you think about that?
Out being pushy. I think, and this is something that I've learned from our marketing team, maybe getting creative with your subject lines. So, just sending an email saying, how are things going? Or any questions I can help you with, right? So without explicitly saying, hey, when you're committing, just checking in to see on how their circumstances, have things changed, any movement in your timeline. So subject lines in your follow-up emails, I think has helped me in the past.
Right. I love that. Eli, what do you think?
Absolutely. And then also just being personal. Like if you're in the follow-up stage, you've already had an initial meeting with them, you've gotten to know them. So just being intentional and letting your true authentic self shine through of that you actually care and you want to work with them and you want to show them that as when you start working with me, this is the type of support you're going to get. Like I'm truly going to care if your daughter graduated in June. So just, yeah, being intentional and just being yourself. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our head when we're in sales. I know I do as well, but just following your notes, your gut, and just being yourself.
Absolutely. It is also okay to just cut people loose. So if you've been following up with someone for 12 months and they had said before they were going to sign with you within 6 months, like they're probably not going to join, but maybe they will later. So send an email that just says, hey, it seems like now's not the right time for us to work together. I'd love to hear why. Here's my 2-minute anonymous survey that you can fill out. Please know my door is always open to you. And if in the future you want to revisit this, I would love to have a conversation. That lets them know that you're still interested in working with them. It kind of lets you off the hook of like, I can stop thinking and worrying about this person and just move on with my life. So it is okay to also like cut the cord at some point. Okay, let's see. Okay, we had one that was pre-submitted that's a little random, but I'm going to share because I found the answer for you. So someone asked, is there a way to target marketing on Instagram? For example, OBGYN residency page members or followers. What type of person or business would have this expertise and be available for hire? So I asked Sam, who is the director of our sales and marketing operations, and he said that you can use advertising agencies or freelancers to help you target your audience on paid platforms. Meta, for example, is really good at targeting interests and groups, but getting to that audience is convoluted and tricky. You should hire someone to set up the audiences and deploy the messaging you choose to reach that audience. Instagram and Facebook are tied together by the same ad dashboard. He recommended Fiverr, that's spelled Fiverr. I'm hoping Audrey, our ghost host, will find us that website. To start with, because that's a pretty cost-effective and quality platform where you can find someone to help you with something like that. Okay, so we get these. Another pre-submitted question for us. Do you think it's worth trying to convince a DIYer to hire an advisor, or they usually stick with being a DIYer? So I think we can frame that we do get advisors that are like, I can do this by myself. No, thank you. So Eli, do you want to talk us about convincing a DIYer?
Totally. I think it's important to have those conversations and just share the value that you can bring to them and know that, hey, I love that you're a DIYer, but there are some things that you don't know. And maybe that's where there's another, maybe fee structure in your firm of, this is for DIYers. We're going to have a couple conversations. I'm going to help point and guide you in the right direction and then go forth. And I feel like if you really meet the client where they're at and help them as much as possible and set them free, eventually they will come back, whether it be questions or, hourly services, or even just like, hey, I thought I was a DIYer. Turns out I can build cabinets, but I can't really work on my finances. So I think it's important to have that conversation, meet the client where they're at, and set them free. Share, invite, and teach, and see what happens.
When talking with those folks who are kind of in that DIY mold, I just try and get to and try to understand what type of non-revenue generating tasks are you doing that you could get off your plate and let other people handle those, so you can focus on what you're really great at, which for you folks is serving your clients, providing that advice, providing those financial plans, digging in deep to the investment management side as well. So helping them realize where maybe they're spending some time they may not need to, they could outsource that and really hone in on the things that they really love to do and get done.
Yeah, absolutely. We say there's a lot at XYPN of just like, you can, but should you? So I think framing the conversation that way, if you're working with someone that makes $50 an hour, if you frame it of like, if you really want to do a comprehensive plan on your own, it's this many hours, that's that much of your money. That's $10,000. You're only going to pay me $5,000, right? You're going to be saving $5,000. So help people frame it in a way that's like meaningful to their pocketbook. I also think DIYers are the perfect people, especially if they're young, to stay in touch with. I'm a good example. You know, when I was 27 and childless, I was like, I don't need anybody. I can do this all by myself. But as soon as I got a more complex job, as soon as I had a baby, like those things, then it was like, I don't want to spend my time doing this anymore. I want someone to do it for me. So as their lives evolve, their needs are going to be evolving. So it's really important that they remember, like, oh yeah, I did talk to that advisor who had some great ideas for this. I'm going to come back to them. So I think those are some great ideas for working with the DIYer. Let's see. Well, we're getting close to the end here. So Eli, do you want to tell us one thing you want folks to leave with today?
Be your authentic self. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the sales and wanting to make sure that you do all of the things and you make the sale, but just go out, make friends, share, invite, and teach. And if they work with you, amazing. That's going to be a really fun relationship.
Chris, what you
Yeah.
got?
And for me, really just kind of getting back to my first point of, that everybody sales. And again, it's hard. It's probably not the thing that most of you folks are itching to get after when you get up in the morning. But it's something that everyone and almost every industry has to do. And so just getting comfortable with that fact. And once I did, it made the job so much easier, so much more enjoyable. So that's one thing I'd encourage you folks to take home is that everybody does sell and just keeping it human as well. They're not just deals to be won. These are folks with lives, families, and you just want to be able to provide them with the right information to make the right decision to work with you and provide them with the highest service possible.
Great. I think mine is just that you can do sales, you can be great at sales, and just remember in every interaction that your goal is to help that prospect live their best life. And that's what you want for yourself too. So I think that's it for us today. So we're going to drop if you want to talk with Chris and Eli, we've got their calendar links on the screen, or we'll also drop a link in the chat to be able to have a call with them. They'd love to talk to you about XYPN or more conversations about sales if you want to. And then as you leave this webinar, a survey will pop up. So please, please, please fill that out. Let us know how we did and tell us some ideas for topics in the future. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Eli.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya. Take care.
Bye, everyone.